Hi everyone, it's Genevieve from Kangaroo Time. Thank you so much for watching the recording of our webinar right now. At Kangaroo Time, we create software for childcare centers. We're an all-in-one solution that helps centers grow their business, connect with their families, and effectively manage their staff members. Our software will help you automate your entire business, including payments, billing, check-in and check-out for children, keeping track of staff hours. We also do classroom automation, and this gives your teacher prompts while they're in the classroom to update parents on feedings, diaper changes, and developmental milestones. And it really hardwires the parents into the early education experience, and they get a beautiful feed of content right on their smartphones. So if you're looking for billing and a payment solution, a parent app, or staff scheduling, contact Kangaroo Time today. Thanks so much and enjoy the webinar.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We'll get started in just a moment. Let's give everybody a full 30 seconds. We have Beth Cannon coming to us live from Mansfield, Texas. Beth, can we get a temperature check? You said it's under 100.
It is under 100, absolutely. Hang on, I'll give you the official. It was actually 69 degrees when I went out for my walk this morning. It is 89 degrees right now.
Okay, yeah, that's not so bad. That's not so bad.
Not so bad. This time last week it was about 110, so
wow.
We're having a cold front.
Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love the cold fronts that kind of like hover around 90. Well, welcome everybody. My name's Scott Wayman. We've got a big crowd here. Beth, your following is always very evangelical and loyal. They're awesome, and they always have great questions.
Awesome. I love my friends. They're great.
They're the best. So most of you know Beth, or many of you do. Beth's an international speaker, workshop presenter, and entrepreneur. As we get started and as people are joining, let me introduce Kangaroo Time. So we have a lot of people who are new to our webinars. So I'd like to acquaint you with our company. We're a software company for childcare centers. Even though the name Kangaroo Time sounds like a children's television show in Australia, it's not. We build software. And we have software that essentially replaces 3 or 4 different systems that you might have in your center. So we do parent engagement. We have a great parent app. We have classroom automation, so tools so that your teachers can nearly automate their daily reports inside the classroom. And then, in my opinion, and confirmed by many of our customers, we have the best revenue cycle platform there is. So payments, credit card payments, ACH, all billing automation. Essentially, I have Lisa on here. Lisa is our head of implementation, our vice president of implementation. Once Lisa's done with you setting things up, your billing is forget it or set it and forget it. So that's us. If you're looking, so a few resources we have, if you're looking to improve your childcare center for the back to school season, we have some resources on our blog. In fact, go to kangarootime.com/blog and subscribe. Once you subscribe to our blog, you will start to see those little Chrome updates, which is awesome. So anytime we release a new feature, anytime we have a webinar with Beth or any of the thought leaders that we partner with to do this stuff, you will get those. Also, please subscribe, mash that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is, in my humble opinion, one of the best resources out there for early educators. We have so much content now. We started our full-time webinar schedule mid-March, and that started with PPP, employment attorneys. Beth, this is your second session or third?
Second or third, I can't remember. I know you and I have done a couple of different projects together, but 2 or 3, somewhere in there.
We are partners for sure. So yeah, Beth's last one I see here was managing mindsets and motivating and engaging your employees. There's Vernon Mason on here. Shara Leibowitz is one of our key contributors. Kathy Ligdon from Hinge Brokers has been amazing for us. But guys, the fact that we only have 304 subscribers, that's highway robbery. This is the most underpriced content. It's free out there. So please subscribe and join and share with your friends. So I've got a couple of things. We also host KT Childcare Connect. So when COVID started and schools started shutting down and we started discussing the new normal and what were best practices, we created this Facebook group. It's not a brand affiliation with Kangaroo Time. We're not here to sell you anything. We wanted to create a safe place for our owners, directors, our stakeholders at our centers and at centers nationwide to come together and chat. And we try to do the best we can to post data in here. So we'll let you know, once a month what enrollments look like at our schools inside our network.
That's a great feature.
It's great, yeah. And this is like real data. This is not coming from like a slanted media outlet. This is real data. And then of course we have our key contributors in here. There's Evelyn Knight, who has great content. So please join. It's called KT Childcare Connect. Don't get it confused with our user group. So if you join one of our user groups and want to geek out on our products, we love that. But you might not know what's going on if you don't use our products. But please, we encourage you. We're here to build community. So a few announcements before I formally introduce Beth and her topic. Certificates. If you're here, you will get a certificate. It'll be sent directly to you tomorrow, the day after. And don't send us emails. We'll reply to them. You'll get your certificates. If you have questions, put them in the QA. So on the Zoom panel, you'll see an area for QA. Put the questions in there. Genevieve will either answer them real time, or I'll answer them real time, or we'll save them for the end and we'll get to Q&A. Your cameras and microphones are off. If you forget them, don't worry about it. We can't see you. Now mine and Beth's are total different stories. I'll try to remember to turn mine off. We will be recording this. You will get an email tomorrow with a follow-up, and it will have the link to this. And again, everything does harken back to the content on our YouTube channel. So subscribe there right now. So if you do miss something, you will get an alert. So today's discussion, Beth, we're proud to have you again. You've been motivating groups and teams for over 20 years. From the business of education space to the fitness world, Beth's wide range of experience helps her to connect with a variety of audiences. She's a master's level trainer, registered with the Texas ECPDS, so Early Childhood Professional Development System. And then today, she's going to introduce the Enneagram Personality Test. And not only is she going to do that, Genevieve's in the background, totally distracted. She's taking hers. I'm about to hop off and take mine while she presents. And I'm so pumped about this particular content, because I feel like we're all dealing with a new world of personnel, a new world of employee issues. And if we can start with a baseline understanding of where every employee is kind of rooted in philosophy and temperament, we're so far ahead. So Beth, first of all, love you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to go heads down and take my test, and I'm going to stop my screen so you can get to it. But thank you.
I will share mine now. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Hopefully you can see mine. So
yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for inviting me back. I just love Kangaroo Time and all that you guys have done to really step in and help this early childhood community. And yes, we are going to talk about the Enneagram. It is one of my absolute favorite tools, and that's what it is. It's really, it's just a tool. It doesn't label people. It's just a tool because it helps us to understand and see the world the way that other people do. So before we get started with that, I want to just kind of set a foundation for what it looks like to bring unity into your preschool community. This is a big, big passion for mine. Like Scott said, I have worked in education for a long time. My business, Stretch and Grow, we go into preschools, childcare centers, and we do enrichment classes. So I've had over the years thousands and thousands and thousands of teachers and directors that we've worked with. And so we've been in so many different kinds of environments, and it's really just given me a heart for this community. And I think that there's so many things that if we can just tweak our mindsets, it really helps to set a stage so that everyone can show up to work as their best, most healthy self. And so before we dive in, I just want to circle back to something that is really, really important in your mindset. The last time I talked at on these webinars, I talked to you guys about ACT therapy. What it is, it's acceptance and commitment therapy. And it just simply means that we have to accept what's happening in front of us and commit to making life-giving choices. So as we're coming into a new school year, there are so many different mindsets and so many different fears and concerns and personalities. And it's funny, when I posted the promo for this session, one of the awesome directors in my Facebook group popped in and said, Beth, we are not post-pandemic. This ad says that this is a post-pandemic area. She goes, if this were a baseball game, I think we're in like the 4th inning. And she's right. When we planned this months and months ago, we thought we would be kind of in a post-pandemic. And she's right. We're probably in about the 4th inning, because no one knows, when this is going to end and what's happening. So we're just really having to move forward in the best ways that we know how. And accepting uncertainty is a part of that. And based on our core fears and motivations, we accept uncertainty at a different rate. Maybe it looks different for people. And so understanding how other people process that uncertainty is very important. There's a Michael Hyatt quote that I just love, and it says, we've got to retain absolute faith that we can and will survive, and at the same time confront the most brutal facts of our current reality. And that is where we are. So as we step into this training, I always love to give avatars of certain personality types of who we're going to see when we get into a center and what that looks like. And there's some new culture vultures. We've got Jerry the germaphobe. We've got hypochondriac Hannah, news watching Nancy, fake news Farrah, anxious Anna, and then we have sweet little calm Kate. And if you look at those, you might have a little chuckle, but at the same time, you probably realize maybe you're one of those people, or maybe you tap into a few different personalities just based on the fears that we have surrounding the virus and how everyone's processing moving forward through all of this. So we're going to go from recognizing culture vultures to building a values-driven culture. Because when you go back to your core values, and that is treating people, whatever your core values are, they're going to vary based on, your school and what's important to you. But when you really, really anchor down, I think every single center wants their employees to know that they are valued and that they are cared for. And when you take those values and then you take the culture that you intentionally create, that kind of turns out to be your staff brand. And so the different women or men and women that are in your center make up your staff brand, and understanding who they are and how their mind works is really important as a leader, because we think when women work with women, like what can happen, right? And I say women, so for those of you guys out there, I'm not excluding you, but as you know, probably most childcare centers have about 98% women working there. So either you might be a dude that kind of finds yourself in this mix of what I call the estrogen cloud, or you're just a woman on that team. And so what happens when women work with women, you have either the negative side, the backbiting, the negativity, the complaining, the constantly looking at the inconsistencies of the other people on your team, or You also have nurturing, you have support, you have a group of women who will love you and nurture you and help walk you through really difficult seasons of time. So NACE came out a few years ago and they did a study on preschool teachers. And what they found was that 88% dealt with gossip, backbiting, and power struggles among their colleagues. They also found that preschools are 3 times more likely to have negative atmospheres than positive. They found that more than 2/3 of that gossiping that's happening, that they expect it to continue into a new year. And then we found that 80% of early childhood leaders are conflict avoidant, right? So that can kind of make it for a mix of a little bit of crazy. But I firmly believe with everything in me that when we know and understand each other, we can work better on teams. And when you're looking at your school, I want you to think, we always call it our thinking cap, CAP. Are the dynamics of your school constructive? Like, are you building each other up? Like, you as the leader, are you intentionally building up your team and letting them know what they're doing well and showing them gratitude and appreciation? Or do you feel like you're constantly tearing them down and looking at what's wrong and what's negative? Do you end most of your days assured that you made a positive difference? Or are you ashamed maybe of the way that you acted or behaved? And then finally, it's, do you believe that no staff member is neutral? You're either positive or negative. So I was talking with my friend Faith this morning. She's a director and I do lots of training for their school. And she said, you know, that's so true. She said that people are either positive or negative. And if you don't know, then you're probably negative, because if you're positive, you probably have a good idea that you're positive because you intentionally choose that positivity. So there's 2 simple ways that we can all become more self-aware. And that is what the Enneagram is about. It's just a tool for self-awareness. There's 2 things. It's called your mindset, and then it's your personality. So very quickly, mindset, it's mindset over matter. And I'm not going to dwell down on growth versus fixed mindset today, but if that's something that you want to study, Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, she did this initial work back in the late 80s about mindset. And there's some easy, free psychometric tests that you can hop online and take, and it'll show you whether or not you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And if you don't have one, you can shoot me an email at beth@bethcannonspeaks.com, and I'll be happy to send you some links to that. But mindset over matter is really important. And then we get into my personal favorite, the Enneagram. It's and our course that we have on it is called Dare to be Self-Aware. What kind of team member are you based on your Enneagram type? And I call it I drink the Kool-Aid of these psychometric tests, because we just don't have a way of getting people sometimes until we understand what their core fears and what their core motivations are. Now, Enneagram, it maybe sound a little woo-woo sometimes, but it's got roots actually back to the 4th century, I believe. And then of course it's evolved over years and years and years. And even the Catholic Church spent a lot of time, doing some studies on it. And now even in faith spaces, business spaces all over the world, it's a very widely accepted. And in my opinion, and I'm curious to see what Scott thinks about it and what his number is, in my opinion, it nails people so well. And Scott's got a degree in psychology, so I can't wait to hear what his take is going to be on this. But it is a map for personal growth that identifies 9 basic ways of relating to and perceiving the world, meaning that there are 9 normals. So not everybody looks at a situation and sees it the same or processes the situation the same. And so there's 9 different ways to do it. It accurately describes what you think, feel, and behave based on particular core motivations and, of course, core fears as well. So understanding that really kind of gives you some power for self-awareness, forgiveness of yourself and for others, and really to have more compassion for yourself and others. So I am going to recommend that you guys take an Enneagram test. There's several that are out there. I've got one on my website. I'll share with you guys a little bit later. I've got a little mini course, but it's you can find in the Enneagram test for free. There's a number of ones out there. The one that I prefer, it's the Eclectic Energies test, and it gives you your number and your wing. And so there's a lot that goes into that. So I won't spend a lot of time talking about your number and your wing. We're just going to kind of gently touch on what those numbers are. so that you can go back and understand. But the reason that I think that you should have your staff take this is because I think it is solid gold, valuable information to understand how they process things. And so when we get into the numbers, I'll kind of give you a little bit of idea and tell you some fun stories about how it's worked on our team and in my family as well. But just being aware of your strengths is really important. And most of us say, well, of course I know what my strengths are. I absolutely know what my strengths are. I'm good at writing, or I'm good at accounting, or I'm good at math, or I'm organized, or I'm disorganized, or I'm driven, or I'm analytical. So we all have different ways that we look at the world. And so you can identify the differentiators of where you actually excel. You can find things that come naturally to you. My husband, for example, he has a degree in accounting, CPA, and then he has a master's in finance. The things that he is really, really good at and the things that he loves, I feel like I've got a kindergarten education sometimes when I look at those things, because the numbers side doesn't naturally come to me. Now, just because it doesn't come to me naturally doesn't mean I don't need to pay attention to a P&L statement or understand basic finances. But as far as the debits and the credits and the liabilities and all of that, it's not my thing. I would rather go out and figure out how to make the money and then bring it back to him and then let him figure out how to organize it and save it and invest it and all of those things, because we just have different strengths that come naturally to us. And then, of course, your personality traits, and just to be aware of the ways that you kind of challenge yourself. Okay. So next, I want to talk to you about your weaknesses. Now, we all have weaknesses, and sometimes we're aware of them and sometimes we're not aware of them, because we all are generally inherently judgy. We're probably really aware of the weaknesses of most of the people around us. In fact, you might probably be able to identify more about the weaknesses on some team members than you actually do their strengths, because their strengths don't cause you time or pain or energy to deal with. So sometimes it's the weaknesses, but we need to be aware of our own weaknesses as well. So again, stay away from the negative traits, qualities, and not so ideal situations that your unhealthy type falls into. And when you study the Enneagram, you'll see that this is my strength and this is where I thrive, but this is where I can kind of go negative, or this is where I can kind of find myself to be unhealthy. And then, of course, understand how you go low when you feel exposed, like when you feel like you're the underdog, when you feel like you've been taken advantage of, when you feel like the work that you've done has not been acknowledged. And then also, just being mindful of how you process fear and insecurities. So I'm going to briefly talk about each of the Enneagram types. So again, there's 9 numbers, and the ones are the very first number on the Enneagram. The ones, they are the moral compass. They are also called the perfectionists or the reformers. And so I will tell, my husband is a 1. He is very, very much a perfectionist. And so the way that he sees the world is in very, very direct terms. He processes things in there is a right way to do things and there is a wrong way to do things. And I have studied the right way to do things and I understand it and I get it. And this is how we are going to do this thing because it is right. And other people in our family sometimes have different ideas of what that looks like. But working together, like you want someone who's a 1 to do your finances. You want someone who's a 1 to do your books. So again, the moral compass are the 1. So I'm going to encourage you to really study not only your number, but also the numbers of the other people around you, because it's helped me understand he's not only my husband, he's my business partner as well. And we have worked together in our business for 17 years and we office out of our house. So I have an office upstairs where I can shut the door and do my thing. And he has an office downstairs. And so it works well for us because I can shut my door and he can shut his door. But again, understanding the way that he processes things, it affects the way that I bring information to him. And so that's the 1. And then the 2s. Now, if you know anything about the Enneagram and you're in education, you probably know that most teachers are 2s. The 2s, that's the most common number among educators. They are the helpers, they are the givers, they are the mentors. Mother Teresa is a 2. Okay, so Mr. Rogers is a 2. So great, wonderful, beautiful people who are twos. And the thing with twos is they want to help. So if you've got teachers and you know that they're twos, the way that you're going to motivate your twos is to let them know how much you are helping them. One of my directors, she's been kind of my right arm for almost 13 years now, and her main number is a 2. She definitely taps to her 1 and 3 wing, but she is a 2. And when she knows that what she's doing is helpful in her job, there is nothing that she won't do. I mean, she is there. She is there to mentor. She is one of the best mentors that I've ever seen. That when we bring in new staff, she works with them. She nurtures them. She almost to the point of an enabler, because she wants to help them so much and help them do well. So those are the 2s in your life. More than likely, those are your teachers. My daughter is a 2, and she's actually an early intervention specialist, early childhood intervention, and she's a great 2. And then there are the 3s. Now, if you know anything about the Enneagram and you know me at all, you probably have not had a difficult time pegging the fact that I am a 3. There are multiple Enneagram tests that are out there. Like I said, the one that's my favorite is the Eclectic Energies test, because it gives you your number and then your wing. But every test I've ever taken, I am a rock solid 3. And when you look at all of the analyzations on different websites that you'll find, the Enneagram Coach is one of my favorites. It'll tell you when you're a healthy 3, you're hitting on all cylinders, you can take on the world. But when you are not healthy, you can be competitive, you can be argumentative, you can really go low when you're not being able to achieve things and do things. We're the achievers, we're the performers, we're also great motivators, which that's what I do. I love to teach. I love to motivate people. I love to encourage people. If I'm learning something new, and I think because I'm a teacher, I'm a natural learner. If I'm learning something new, my brain processes it in that I'm going to learn this, and then I'm going to turn around and teach it to you. So when I started studying the Enneagram years ago, I'm starting to learn it, and then I'm starting to learn it. I'm doing it for myself, and then I thought, oh my gosh, this will be great on my team. And then I saw like how much insight it gave me and how to motivate and develop my team. I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to share this with other directors that I know. Like, everyone should know this information. But that's the motivator in me. And then the 4s are the romantic, the individualists. They pride themselves on being originals. Now, I will tell you, 4 is the most rare number on the Enneagram. I have a very dear friend that I'm actually a yoga teacher also. It's just as fun. I've taught Greek fitness for years, and I teach yoga now. One of my yoga friends is a 4, and she studies the Enneagram as well. And she is motivated when she doesn't get a lot of rules, when she has an opportunity to be creative and do her own thing. She is a wonderful employee. She's a great team member. She is strong. She is empathetic, but she also likes to be able to do her own thing. She doesn't like to be micromanaged. So if you know you've got a 4, you need to let that 4 be free. We call them the unicorns of the Enneagram. And it's really important that you allow people and you honor that creativity, because they'll do great for you. Like yesterday, I was doing a training at a church school up here in Plano, Texas, and in the room, a ton of 3s. There was one 4. And she kind of left the training a little bit early, and the director goes, oh, she went down to organize the curriculum because there's no one that does a better job. And so rather than, get some training on this teamwork, they know that she best thrives when she can go organize things and set up things and get everything creative for those teachers to develop and implement. So I think that it's awesome that her leader honored that in her. And then you've got your 5s. Not a lot of teachers that are 5s, but we've seen a few. They are the investigators or the observers or the thinkers. And so going through this whole pandemic, they've been the ones that have been on their Google News feed, copying ads, copying articles, sending things back and forth to each other. And they do it because they want the best information. They feel like being informed is power, knowledge is power. And so they love to think, and they love to focus on getting information that's going to help them feel confident. But here's the thing about 5s too. If you know you've got a 5, sometimes 5s really like their alone time. They really, they sometimes kind of sort of check out. but that's just who they are. Again, everybody has their own normal. So, you know, you may have a party or a staff gathering, and you've got someone who comes and they want to leave early, right? Well, guess what? If that person is a 5, the fact that they showed up, A, is good, because they probably don't super dig parties anyway. They showed up just to be a team player. But for them, being there for an hour and a half of a 4-hour party, like, that was a stretch. And so rather than being frustrated that they didn't, you know, well, you weren't being a team player, they did what they could do for themselves. And I think when you understand and honor that, it helps to reset expectations for the entire team. So, and then you've got your 6s. They are the loyalists. They are the skeptics. They are, we call them the troopers. Now, a healthy 6, they are the most prepared. Like, they can see danger coming. They are prepared. They overthink things. They think through all possible scenarios, and they are ready with a plan for all possible scenarios. So if you're a 6, you're watching this and you're going, yep, amen, that's me. That's exactly how I think. In fact, I heard the story of, there was a pod of monkeys in the wild, and scientists observed them, and they noticed the ones who were the worriers, you know, the ones that were over preparing and that seemed to be most anxious and worrying about things. And they removed those monkeys from the pod. And guess what happened? In a year, all the monkeys were dead, because they didn't have anyone to warn them of danger. You know, you had the 4s that were off, you know, creating things in the trees, and the 3s that were off trying to collect more coconuts, and the ones who were worried about keeping this, you know, worrying about survival, they were removed. And so 6s are so incredibly valuable. You need 6s on your team. You need someone that can see the full 360. I have one of my biz besties is a 6, and I love traveling with her because I'm always thinking about the things I'm going to do when I get there, and she's always prepared nonstop. So I've never traveled with her without having to get something out of her bathroom bag. So your 6s are great, but 6s can also be very insecure when they don't feel heard, or when they don't feel like someone is acknowledging what they're doing, or acknowledging their contribution to the worry that they brought to the stage. But 6s are great partners to have. And then you have the 7s. Now, if you are a 7, you people are the most fun on the Enneagram. You are the enthusiast, you are the extrovert, you are the visionary. 7s are key to have. I love my 7s. In fact, my son is a 7, and God love that kid. He's got a perfectionist for a dad who thinks there's one way to do things. And then he's got an achiever for a mom who is constantly behind him, pushing him to do more, do more, do more. And he just wants to have fun. And so he is a junior in college right now. And so I do have to say, had I known about the Enneagram when my son was much younger, I think I would have been a much different mom. I know that we probably would have parented a little bit different, just to realize that, like, hey, he lives for experiences. And so instead of just focused on, you need to keep your room clean, and these are your chores, and this is your schoolwork, and you need to maintain the schedule, is just to realize, like, hey, do you want to go play with your friends? Well, then you need to clean your room. Or don't you love playing with your friends? Like, your friends are awesome. Tell me about the fun things you guys do. Yeah, isn't that awesome? Well, yeah. Well, you can't do that again until you do these things. And so they see the things they have to do as a path to get to the things that they want to do. So they are very much intrinsically motivated by having experiences. So again, if you've got someone who's a 7, who's an enthusiast, you know, you might realize, like, they have a very hard time staying in the classroom. So if they need to take their kids maybe out on the playground, or, you know, walk around the center, or take a little field trip outside, allow that, because they inherently need those experiences. They need to kind of get out of their own 4 walls. And then we have the challengers, the 8s. So the 8s are the challengers, the bosses, the protectors. You find a lot of 8s in leadership. President Trump is an 8. And so you see that you know, the challenger in someone who can step forward and lead in a way that challenges the systems. And so when you have employees who are 8s, and you're the leader and you're leading an 8, understanding and honoring their energy, that the fact that they are just inherently wired to challenge things, give them an opportunity to be heard, give them an opportunity to speak. Because if you give them an opportunity to speak and they feel heard, they are going to be the best protector. They are fiercely, fiercely loyal. These are the people who are social justice warriors, who are advocates against crimes against humanity, advocates in a lot of the, we've seen a lot of social issues over the summertime. You'll see a lot of challengers that want to step up and protect the innocent. My pastor's wife is an 8, actually. And at first, when I first met her, I was like, wow, she's in charge. Like she's, she'll take the bull by the horn. She is not, the meek pastor's wife that maybe you think in your mind. And she has a heart for refugees. She has a heart for third world countries. And she is such a social justice warrior. And when I understood that she was an 8, I'm like, oh my gosh, that all makes sense. Like she gets so passionate about things because she cares so much about things. And then we have our 9s. Now, your 9s are the peacemakers, the harmonizers, and they are the mediators. And I do have a lot of director friends who are 9s. And, 9s, I feel like 9s are sometimes some of the most misunderstood, because sometimes people take 9s as being lazy because they see that as inaction, when in fact they're not lazy. They're not lazy at all. They literally need to process the world. Their normal is that they need to find peace. And so sometimes in finding peace, a 9 needs to disconnect. Like my cousin, who is one of my people in life, she's a 9. And it's good to have a 9 in your life because I'm a 3. I have a capacity to take on a lot of things. I don't have a lot of need for downtime. Like right now, I'm doing a challenge over in my Facebook group, and it's just a time tracker. And it's just what do we do with the 168 hours that we need? And everybody has the same 168 hours. And one of the things that I hear from directors all the time is, I don't have enough time. I'm overwhelmed. I'm constantly interrupted. I'll work the entire day and I'll get to the end of the day and I have no idea what I did. I know I did some stuff. I had some big things that I didn't quite get to. What in the world did I do? Well, a time tracker can totally help you figure out what it is that you're doing. And I had a business coach several years ago that challenged the group that I was in to time track for a week. And it was really eye-opening at the time that I actually did have, when I began time blocking and saying, okay, I'm going to get up and on Monday mornings, I am going to work on content for onboarding. We're redoing our onboarding process, and I'm going to work on content on Monday morning. And Scott mentioned our friend Evelyn Knight. She is in this childcare world big time as well. She's got an awesome business. She's the childcare business coach, and she does time blocking in her schedule as well. She's massively efficient. She runs 3 centers, and she runs this awesome membership. She time blocks, and she works on social media content on Monday mornings. And so when it's in her calendar, this is what I'm going to work on, and she fiercely protects that time. And so tracking your time to understand where you're spending your time helps. And I'm going to start what I was getting to with the 9s is that as a 3, I don't need a lot of downtime. I need to be productive and I need to go. So after my first day of writing down everything that I had done, I realized I did a lot because I'm productive. And I knew that I had an accountability partner through this. So I'm a 3. So there's 0% chance that because I'm a 3, I am not going to do what I'm supposed to, especially if there's a prize. Now, there wasn't a prize for this, but 3s are very competitive. And so when my friend that was a 9 looked at that and she was like, when did you rest? When did you get some peace? I'm like, well, I walked a couple of times, so that was my piece. And she was like, okay. And then I had a friend that was a 2 that sent me a message and said, there is no downtime in that. She said, and she doesn't like to exercise. She said, I will do a plank if you leave 30 minutes of your schedule that you do absolutely nothing. Well, as a 3, I couldn't do it. I have this need to continue to get things done and to continue to be productive, because that's where my personality goes back. But again, we all take that same simple task and we process it in different ways. So again, I would just encourage you, if you really want to know your team, and I think that every leader, whoever is on this webinar right now, whoever's listening to this either live or watching the recording later, it is such an incredibly valuable tool. We've put some resources on it over in our Facebook group, which is just the COVID-19 community faith-based and NPO group. But before we wrap up, I've got just a couple of minutes. Oh, Scott, are you coming back? Okay, Scott's coming back. Real quick, I'm going to hit this real quick. You're working with the 1, respect their integrity, take things seriously. Don't make promises that you can't keep, and make sure you follow the procedures. You're working with the 2. You want to make sure that you step forward, let them know you appreciate them, and don't be too harsh or critical. Working with the 3, you appreciate their work, you speed up talking to them because they are massively efficient, and don't get in the way of their momentum. Your 4s, you appreciate their emotional sensitivity and their creativity, and you do not insist on being rational. 5s, give them room to process. They need their downtime. Don't assume that you know what's going on with them. Ask them if you want to know. 6s, appreciate their attention to the problem. If they're going to bring something up, make sure you listen, because they might tell you a nugget that you'll miss. Don't change the rules abruptly. 7s, have fun. Don't be negative with them. 8s, make direct contact, be assertive, but give them that grace to process what they need to process. Don't try to be too controlling. And with your sweet 9s, help them pursue all the peace that they can. Don't come on too strong with them. And that is all I've got, Scott.
Hey, Beth, let's rewind to number 2. Somebody had a question. It said, skip number 2.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Step forward, make contact, give approval or appreciation. So I took the test.
What are you?
You burned it. Like, you knew it. So let me tell you, like, I'm looking at my results right now, and I've got some comments about the test too. Just being a former psychology major and knowing a little bit about tests and assessments. So first of all, I'm a type 3.
I knew it.
You knew it. But then, so my score for type 3 was 9. What does that mean?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the. I'd have to look at the assessment. It just said your score is a 9. Did it give you your wing?
Yeah, it gave me. It said taking wings into account, you seem to be a 2W3 or -3W2.
Okay. So that means I'm a 3 wing too, and what that means is that 3 is your number 1, and so like you're motivated, but and this totally pegs you, Scott. You're motivated, but yet you want to help people. So your drive to continue to push forward and innovate and make changes and create things, you do this because you want to help people. So that exactly pegged you.
That is amazing. Now, there was some non-congruence on the test I want to ask you about and get your thoughts on.
Okay.
Not that you're the key. And by the way, Genevieve was a 3 too. So does that mean we are destined for some like ridiculous fights? Should we start pressing the record button on everything and putting out all this content of just us fighting, or do we?
Well, that means that you guys are going to get a lot done. So you guys just need to make sure that you are in alignment with your goals, because you'll be a killer team when you're in alignment, right? But you got to really focus on being in alignment. So when you look back at how to work with a 3, right? Appreciate their speed up talking to them. That means get to the point, but don't get in the way of their forward momentum.
Genevieve, any comments on your wings?
So I took the one test, I got a 3, and I was like, that can't be right. So then I took another test and I got 3 again. So I think I am a 3.
Well, and and also too, and I should say this up front, I am not there's certified Enneagram coaches. I am an enthusiast of it. So there's a lot of information that's out there. There's a really good book I will recommend if you want to put this in the show notes. It's called The Road Back to You. And that book is, when you read the descriptions, it really helps you to identify your type, maybe even really more than a test. Typically, if you're going to take a test, the tests are going to kind of help you to be spot on. I don't know many people who have taken that Eclectic Energies test and said, hey, but I read up on this and I think that the test typed me wrong. The tests are pretty good, and when you begin to really study it, it pulls back some layers, especially when you look at when you're an unhealthy number, it kind of digs in your heart and you're like, yep, that might be me.
Yeah, there's some self-awareness here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that because oops, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oops, okay, I pressed the button on accident. To me, there are some non-congruence. Can you show one again? So while so like one was, one of the questions that I had a hard time with was, I want to enjoy things, so I am not very disciplined. And in my core, I got like anxiety. I started thinking, oh my God, anybody that's not disciplined can't enjoy anything. And I think that's like that's my weird programming. Like if I want to go to the beach and not look like Shamu the whale, then I've got to be disciplined and ride my bike every day. Like I wouldn't enjoy that. Or if I wanted my business to be doing well and enjoy the fruits of that, I've got to be oriented. I've got to be working very hard. So some of the questions, I know by design what they're trying to draw out, but some of them have some non-congruence.
Let me tell you why that's congruent. Let me tell you why I think that is congruent. Threes are very image conscious. So a 3 is not going to go to the beach looking like Shamu, as you said, because you're image conscious. And you're not going to show up in a scene to where you're not going to be seen as someone who can be successful. And if you're showing up, and not that you would wear a Speedo, but let's just say you show up in a Speedo, you got to look good for the Speedo. So but you wouldn't wear a Speedo because you're an American, and no American man is going to show up in a Speedo on the beach. But you see what I'm saying? It's that image conscious that goes back to it.
Except for my brother, that's a 7 that just wears it as a bit and will send me pictures of himself in a Speedo. But anyway, that's a different story. He's the consummate 7. And then there were questions like, oh, there were just things in there again where I could see it. I could see the test by design. One was, I can take a nap even when I'm stressed. And I'm like, who does that? What does
that?
Yeah.
9s do that. Your 9s can take a nap.
Hey, Beth, so Melissa asked, did I miss the suggested Enneagram test? You said eclectic?
Eclectic, yes, eclectic energies. Yep.
Awesome.
I'll go back to my. Yeah. And I've got it listed in my website too. There at Beth Cannon Speaks. If you just look at the notes under Dare to Be Self-Aware, you can see it. You can see it there as well. But yeah, it's the Eclectic Energies one. It's a free one. There's several different ones out there. I just think that the Eclectic Energies one is generally most specific, and it gives you your wing, and your wing's kind of like your alternate that you go back and forth to. So if you're a 3, you would only have a 1 wing, or I'm sorry, a 2 wing or a 4 wing. So your wing is on either side of your number.
And Beth, okay, so one of the things was that I was thinking about during the test was, I think your number is so contextual, right? Like, what was the one? One was kind of, I'm more sentimental than others, and my question there was, like if I'm in my circle of entrepreneur friends, that group is probably not the most sentimental group. But if I'm in COVID with my family and with different people, so I think all that's contextual. As I was going through this, I was thinking like, am I answering this question as Scott, at work, or am I asking this question as like Scott and how I function in my family? Because Scott and my family is very sentimental, and I I have this appreciation for all this. Scott in business doesn't give a flying whatever about sentimentality, or sentiment. So I do think that it is smart to kind of approach this in context, right? Like different cohorts that you exist in, you have different functions.
But if you think about, and I think, the more I study it, the more I see, like I said, it's the lens through which we see the world. If you look at the Enneagram, there are 9 ways that we see the world. So although you may have different personality traits in other situations, the way you process the world is going to be the same. Like I said, I have a friend that's a counselor, and I was kind of, we're talking about a family issue, and she was like, do you know your family's Enneagram numbers? And I was like, yeah, why? And she's like, tell them to me. She goes, because that tells me everything I need to know about the dynamic. And then when you tell me the context of what's happening in your family, I can kind of help you with the lens for how to process these things. Like, like I said, my son's a 7 and he, didn't necessarily want to take school very seriously. And I'm like, you make A's because I worked really hard to pay to send you to that school. So I'm going to need some A's. I know you're capable. And my husband is like, this is how you do things. And he's like, but it's so fun here. So fun over, and so it's just the way that he looks at the world as an experience. I look at him going to college as a path to a better life for himself.
Gosh, every financial aid office at every university needs to deploy this test. Like, mom and dad, they need to understand that the kiddo is here to partay, and yeah, connecting their financial commitment is not going to do anything if they're a 7, right? Like,
well, it might be a longer road. But then my daughter went to the same school. She's a 2. She knew it was an expensive school. She's like, I'm going to get out in 3 years, Mom. So she got out in 3 years because she wanted to help with the finances. I mean, again, it's just the way they process the world.
So Beth, there was a question on here. I just wanted to get your in the moment take. It says, I have a real sensitivity to how my presentation is affecting others, and I can alter it if I have to. Is that how you approach? Is that a yes, no, or partly for you?
It is absolutely a yes, especially if I know who I'm talking to. Like, I'm going to have a meeting with one of my employees after this. She's a 1. And, we worked on a lot of projects. She put a lot of time into them. And then schools changed their start date, which completely changed what we were going to be able to do with this project. So I'm like, okay, school was going to open September 28th. Now it's opening September 8th. We're going to scratch that whole program and move on. And she's over here going, do you know how much time I spent on this? And in her mind, she did everything right. And I, as her leader, came in and said, oh, table that, move on. And now I'm realizing that wounded her. So I am going to need to sit down with her and say, I want you to know you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You did it right. It was perfect. This has nothing to do with the quality of your work or the time you spent on it. That is not the reason we scrapped it. It just was not the right time. But we'll repurpose that project. But I need to spend some time making sure that her heart is okay, because I'm realizing through some of our interactions that she's hurt because I think she feels unappreciated and that she didn't necessarily do the thing I needed her to do. And so I've got some backtracking to do, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, that's not working. Let's move on. And so it really helps me to understand that she is a 1, because now I know how to help motivate her for the next project.
Genevieve, any thoughts?
I think it's great. I want our team to take all of this. And I think it's really helpful just to have, for the most part, everyone gets along, but just to understand, if you're having a challenge with somebody, or just, if you have to deliver feedback, and knowing the right ways to be able to do that. So I think it's so applicable. Even in the corporate environment, I love how Beth structured everything for, when you're in an early education center. So I think it's really, really helpful.
Beth, real quick, to bring it back to what we do, I know I've been spending tons of my time on human capital management software that we're building. So we've always had our software for the classroom, for parents, for the center and their revenue cycles and payments and everything. Spending a lot of time on giving directors and owners the tools to really lean into how they manage their team. And I think a suggestion I have for everybody is, if you have, this should be like an entrance exam. You should tender these type tests and instruments to every employee. One, it's just an amazing advantage to connect with your team. And Genevieve, you're right. We need to, we do Thursday happy hours now remote. Tomorrow, I'm looking forward to it. I got to go get some beer. But this would be a great tool just to say, everybody take 15 minutes and let's get our Enneagram score.
Yeah, and for the early educators on my website, we've got a course. And if you, totally forgot to say this, if you use the code RONA, RONA, it's 50% off. So it's only a $5 course, and then the teachers can take it, and then they get a 1-hour training certificate for it as well. So that might be something that they might be interested in doing as part of their team building. I know I've been doing some trainings this week, and I'm having the staff take that test. So by the time I get there, we do a really in-depth Enneagram and personality workshop, and it makes a lot of difference for the way that they get to start the year.
It's awesome.
That's great, Beth. We'll put that in our follow-up email to everyone. I think that'll be great.
All right. Well, anything in closing, Beth?
You know, I have such a heart for the early childhood community, and I know that, you know, everyone is starting back. You know, schools are having these really crazy starts. You know, look at your team members as individuals. Love them for who they are. You hired them because you saw something in them, and, you know, just choosing to take some time to getting to know them and to understand, you know, what they're afraid of and what motivates their hearts and what are some of their concerns. Because I feel like if we as leaders walk into this season with more empathy and an understanding for where they are and how they're processing this, I think it's going to help to build greater community and cohesiveness as we move forward into the rest of the semester.
That's amazing. Well, Beth, thank you. We love you. Thanks so much for the content. I think, you know, in closing myself, this week, for whatever reason, has been full of just, you know, some connections that I'm really missing, you know, whether it's seeing many of you out there at trade shows, getting nice texts, getting the, hey, I love you, I miss you. Guys, just make sure you lean into that starting now. You know, I think we've all kind of like been trying to decipher what the new normal is, what our centers will look like here over the next year. And that's kind of codifying itself and becoming a reality. But more than anything, I know as an extrovert, I am missing the contact that I have with my team, being with others. It's part of, you know, being a performer and a motivator as a 3. And I think the people around you are really missing that. So make sure you lean into those hugs and the I miss yous and the contacts, and everybody, please stay safe and healthy. And as you open your schools, please call us if you need us, even just to vent. Beth, I know you're an open ear as well, but let us know also as we kind of like wrap this one up and kind of look forward to our content calendar. Please let us know if there's any content you would like to see. We will be relentless in hunting it down and in presenting it for you. So again, everybody, thank you. We know your time's valuable. We love you. Beth's been a great session, something that's been a great benefit. I'm deploying this with my team, but really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me again. I love your people and love what you guys are doing. And I know that you guys are killing it in the space that you're working in. I know you're helping a lot of centers. I know that makes you happy.
That's the best part. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Genevieve.